Welcome, dear listener, and thank you for choosing to spend this time with us, settling in for a journey into the amber hush of sleeping forests. We hope this gentle tale brings you deep comfort and peaceful rest. If you find solace in our stories and wish to explore more tranquil realms, we warmly invite you to like this video and subscribe to our channel for future soothing adventures. Before we join Finnian on his quest for quietude, we will begin with a short breathing guidance to help ease you into relaxation. Should you prefer to drift directly into the slumbering woods, please feel free to use the chapter timestamps provided in the description below to navigate straight to the story. Now, find a position that feels deeply comfortable for you. Allow your body to feel heavy and fully supported by the surface beneath you, perhaps adjusting your pillow or blanket to create a perfect nest of ease. This time is yours, a gentle space to let the edges of your day soften and blur. Let go of any lingering thoughts or tensions, simply allowing them to drift away like leaves on a slow current. Prepare to immerse yourself in the warm, golden light and profound stillness of the Somnolent Weald, letting its tranquility wash over you. Let us take a slow, calming breath together now. Inhale gently through your nose, feeling the air fill your lungs softly without effort. And exhale slowly through your mouth, releasing the breath with a quiet sigh. Feel the gentle rise and fall of your chest or abdomen. With each smooth exhale, imagine a little more tension melting away, leaving your muscles feeling loose and heavy. Picture the warm amber light of the sleeping forest beginning to surround you, a comforting glow that soaks into your skin, bringing a sense of peace and safety. If your mind wanders, simply acknowledge the thought gently, like noticing a cloud drifting across a calm sky, and then softly bring your attention back to the sensation of your breath or the sound of my voice. There is nothing else you need to do right now, but rest and allow. Feel the stillness of the amber hush beginning to settle within you. Sense the rhythm of the ancient trees, standing motionless and serene. Let this deep quiet resonate within you, soothing your mind and body, preparing you for a journey into peaceful dreams. Now let us begin our story in the heart of the amber hush. Chapter 1. Whispers of the Hush. The gentle clinking of pottery and the low murmur of conversation were usually sounds Finnian enjoyed. They spoke of community, of shared meals and stories told by firelight. But lately, even these soft sounds felt grating, echoes of the louder clamor of the towns he'd passed through the clang of the smithy, the shouts of merchants, the rumble of cartwheels on cobblestones. His spirit felt frayed, like a map left out in the wind and rain for too long. He sought quietude not just for his ears, but for his very soul. He found a measure of peace at the Murmuring Willow, an inn nestled beside a gently flowing river, its sign a carving of a willow tree dipping its branches into the water. Inside, the air smelled wonderfully of drying herbs, lavender, chamomile, mint hanging in bunches from the low rafters, mingling with the warm, sweet scent of beeswax candles flickering on sturdy wooden tables. The floorboards creaked companionably underfoot, a sound far preferable to the harsh stone of city streets. He chose a small table in a quiet corner, near a window overlooking the river, its surface reflecting the soft gray light of the overcast afternoon. The innkeeper, a kindly woman with flour dusting her apron and smile lines crinkling around her eyes, brought him a mug of warm cider, spiced with cinnamon and cloves. Its warmth seeped into his chilled hands, a small comfort that eased a little of the tension in his shoulders. He cupped the mug, breathing in the comforting aroma, and let his gaze drift around the common room. It was sparsely populated at this hour, a few locals nursing ale, their conversation a low, unintrusive burble. It was then he caught fragments of their talk, words spoken with a certain reverence, a hushed wonder. "Deepest slumber," one man murmured, tracing patterns on the table with a wet finger. "Golden light like trapped sunset," added another, his eyes distant as if recalling a dream. They spoke of the Somnolent Weald, a forest, or perhaps several forests, known for entering a state they called the amber hush, a time when the entire wood fell into a profound sleep, bathed in a warm golden light, where time itself seemed to slow and an incomparable peace descended. Finnian leaned forward slightly, straining to hear without seeming intrusive. The descriptions resonated within him, painting a picture of the very sanctuary he craved. Stillness, warmth, deep, undisturbed quiet, a place where the relentless pace of the world outside simply ceased to exist. The locals spoke of it not as a place of danger or eerie magic, but as one of profound natural rest, a sacred quietude. They mentioned how travelers, weary like him, sometimes sought it out, though finding it required a quiet heart and a willingness to follow meandering, half-forgotten paths. He waited until the men gathered their cloaks to leave, then approached the innkeeper, who was polishing pewter mugs behind the counter. "Excuse me," he began softly. "I overheard talk of the amber hush, a sleeping forest." The innkeeper paused, her expression softening with understanding. "Ah, the Weald," she nodded. "Yes, some folks seek its peace. It's not on any map, you understand. More a feeling you follow." She gave him simple, gentle directions. Follow the river upstream until the whispering reeds grow thick. Then look for a path marked by luminous moss, visible even in daylight. "It finds those who truly need its quiet," she added, her voice barely above a whisper. A sense of purpose, gentler and calmer than any he'd felt in months, settled over Finnian. He thanked the innkeeper, her warm smile a blessing on his nascent journey. He finished his cider, the spice sweetness lingering on his tongue, a promise of warmth to come. He gathered his small pack, feeling not the urgency of escape he'd felt leaving the last town, but a quiet pull, a sense of being drawn towards something restorative. Outside, the air was cool and damp, carrying the fresh scent of the nearby river and wet earth. He turned his face towards the direction the innkeeper had indicated, upstream, where the land gradually grew wilder, quieter. The path wasn't immediately obvious, but the murmur of the river was a constant, soothing guide. He walked slowly, deliberately, letting the frantic energy of his recent travels dissipate with each step, breathing in the clean air, already feeling a subtle shift towards the stillness he sought. The whispers of the hush seemed to travel on the breeze, calling him onward into the quiet green ahead. Chapter 2. The Gilded Threshold. For 2 days, Finny followed the river's gentle course, the landscape slowly transforming around him. The managed fields and occasional cottages gave way to thicker woods, the trees growing taller, older, their branches interwoven like the fingers of praying hands. The river's murmur remained his constant companion, a soothing bass note beneath the sighing of the wind in the leaves and the occasional distant call of an unseen bird. The air grew cleaner, sharper, scented with pine needles and damp earth. He walked without haste, finding a quiet rhythm that felt natural and unforced. As the innkeeper had described, the reeds along the riverbank grew exceptionally thick, forming a dense, whispering wall of green and gold. And there, just as she'd said, was the path. It wasn't trodden bare, but rather suggested by a parting in the undergrowth, and marked distinctly by patches of moss clinging to tree roots and stones. This moss possessed a peculiar quality. Even in the dappled sunlight filtering through the canopy, it seemed to hold its own soft internal luminescence, a gentle, pale green glow that beckoned him onward. He left the river behind, its familiar murmur fading, replaced by a deepening silence. The path wound gently uphill, carpeted with fallen leaves and pine needles that cushioned his footsteps, making his progress almost soundless. The trees here felt ancient, their bark thick and deeply furrowed, their canopy so dense that only slivers of sky were visible. Yet strangely, the woods didn't feel dark or oppressive. Instead, a peculiar light began to filter through the leaves, not the bright white of midday sun, nor the cool gray of the overcast sky he'd left behind, but a warm, golden radiance, like the light of late afternoon held captive. The air grew noticeably stiller. The gentle breeze that had rustled the leaves moments before died away completely. Even the tiny sounds of the forest, the scurry of unseen creatures, the chirping of insects seemed to fade, replaced by a profound, resonant quiet. It wasn't an empty silence, but a full one, pregnant with peace. He felt it pressing gently against his eardrums, a palpable presence. He slowed his steps further, moving with conscious care, feeling like an intruder in a sacred space. He rounded a bend, shielded by a thicket of ferns whose fronds hung perfectly motionless, and stopped. Before him lay the edge of the forest proper, but it was unlike any woods he had ever seen or imagined. The source of the golden light was clear now. It emanated from the forest itself. Every leaf, every branch, every blade of grass seemed bathed in, and perhaps emitting, a warm amber glow. It was as if the entire wood had been dipped in liquid sunset and frozen in that perfect moment. The air itself seemed thicker here, shimmering faintly, carrying the scent of warm resin and something indescribably ancient and calm. He stood at the threshold for a long moment, breathing slowly. There was no visible barrier, no shimmering wall, yet the transition was distinct. On one side, the familiar breathing world, on the other, this realm of golden stillness. He felt a mixture of awe and a slight respectful hesitation. This was the amber hush. It was real. Gathering his quiet resolve, feeling the gentle pull that had brought him this far, Finnian took a slow, deliberate step forward, crossing the unseen boundary. The sensation was immediate and profound. It felt like stepping into warm, still water. The resonant quiet deepened, enveloping him completely. A feeling of gentle weightlessness came over him, as though the air itself supported him, buoying him up. The tension he hadn't even realized he was still carrying in his neck and shoulders seemed to dissolve, melting away into the golden air. The colors around him intensified the gold deeper, the greens richer, the browns of the tree bark almost velvety. He took another step, then another, moving deeper into the amber hush. His own movements felt strangely slow, deliberate yet effortless. The forest didn't feel asleep in a dead way, but in a deeply restful, restorative way. He felt an overwhelming sense of peace descend upon him, a tranquility so profound it felt like coming home to a part of himself he hadn't known was missing. The whispers he'd heard at the inn hadn't done it justice. This was not just quiet, it was serenity made tangible, bathing him in its golden glow. Chapter 3. The Slumbering Grove. Finnian moved through the Somnolent Weald with a reverence bordering on awe. Each step was placed softly on the thick carpet of unmoving pine needles and moss, a surface so yielding it felt like walking on velvet. The silence was profound, yet comforting, like being wrapped in a thick, warm blanket. The golden light permeated everything, casting long, unmoving shadows and highlighting the intricate textures of bark and leaf. It wasn't the harsh glare of direct sun, but a soft, diffused radiance that seemed to emanate from the very air, the trees, the earth itself. He soon came upon scenes of breathtaking stillness. A small stream meandered through the grove, its water flowing with an almost imperceptible slowness, thick and viscous like liquid amber. There were no ripples, no splashes, only a deep, low hum that seemed to resonate in his bones, a sound more felt than heard. Smooth, gray stones lay on the stream bed, perfectly visible through the clear, golden water. Ferns along the bank stood perfectly still, their fronds exquisitely detailed, not a single tremor disturbing their repose. Further in, he saw the sleeping creatures the innkeeper's patrons had mentioned. Curled beneath the roots of a giant slumbering oak, a red fox lay nose to tail, its fur glowing warmly in the amber light, its chest rising and falling in a rhythm so slow it was barely detectable. On a low-hanging branch, a robin sat perfectly still, its head tucked under its wing, a tiny feathered jewel suspended in time. Finnian watched them for long moments, feeling no fear, only a shared sense of profound peace. They were not trapped or frozen, but deeply, contentedly asleep. He reached out a tentative hand towards the trunk of a nearby beech tree. The bark felt smooth and strangely warm beneath his fingertips, pulsing with a slow, deep thrum, like a sleeping heartbeat. Looking up, he saw leaves caught in impossible suspension, some mid-turn, displaying shades of green and gold, others detached entirely, hanging motionless in the air halfway to the ground. Tiny motes of golden dust, perhaps solidified light or pollen, danced with incredible slowness in the still air, tracing languid patterns only visible when he softened his gaze. The effect on Finnian himself was undeniable. His own breathing had naturally slowed, deepening into a calm, diaphragmatic rhythm he usually only found in deep meditation. His thoughts, usually a busy stream of observations, plans, and worries, had quieted to a gentle drift. He felt no urge to hurry, no need to do anything, but be present in this extraordinary place. The weariness that had clung to him for so long felt distant, replaced by a growing sense of inner quiet and restoration. He felt his muscles relaxing further, a pleasant heaviness settling in his limbs, inviting rest. He found a spot where the moss grew particularly thick and soft, near the base of a towering pine whose needles shone like spun gold. He sat down carefully, leaning his back against the warm, steady trunk. The ground felt wonderfully supportive, cradling him. He closed his eyes for a moment, simply feeling the stillness. He felt the warmth of the amber light on his eyelids, the gentle thrum of the forest floor beneath him, the slow, steady rhythm of his own breath aligning with the deep sleep of the weald. Opening his eyes, he gazed into the golden canopy above. There was no sense of time passing in the conventional way. Minutes could have been hours, or perhaps only seconds had drifted by. It didn't seem to matter. The forest existed in a continuous, peaceful, present moment, and it invited him to join it there. The scent of warm pine resin, damp earth, and that faint honey-like sweetness filled his senses, a calming balm to his spirit. He wasn't merely observing the amber hush. He was becoming part of it, letting its profound tranquility seep into his very being. The quiet wasn't empty. It was full of peace, full of rest, full of the slow, steady pulse of life in its most serene state. Here, surrounded by slumbering trees and sleeping creatures, bathed in golden light, Finnian felt a deep sense of belonging, a quiet joy blooming in the stillness. He drew another slow, deep breath, feeling the peace settle even deeper within him. Chapter 4. The Keeper of Stillness. As Finnian sat resting against the warm pine, lost in the profound quietude of the amber hush, a gentle movement caught the corner of his eye. It was so subtle, so harmonious with the stillness, that at first he wasn't sure he'd seen anything at all. Then, emerging from behind a large moss-covered boulder draped in motionless ivy, came a figure. It was a woman, moving with a grace that seemed less like walking and more like flowing. Her feet, clad in soft, simple slippers, made no sound on the mossy ground. She wore a tunic of undyed woven fabric, perhaps wool or linen, the color of oatmeal, which seemed to absorb the golden light rather than reflect it. Her hair was a soft brown, woven into a loose braid that rested on her shoulder. Her face was calm and kind, her eyes holding the same deep serenity as the forest around her. She didn't seem surprised to see Finnian. Her expression was one of gentle welcome, as if she had been expecting him, or perhaps as if visitors, while rare, were a natural part of the forest's rhythm. She stopped a respectful distance away, offering a soft, warm smile that reached her eyes. "Welcome to the Weald," she said, her voice low and melodic, perfectly attuned to the surrounding hush. It didn't startle Finnian. Rather, it felt like another layer of the forest's deep peace. "I am Maeve. I tend this place during its slumber." Finnian slowly got to his feet, feeling a natural inclination to bow his head slightly in respect. "I am Finnian," he replied, his own voice sounding hushed. "I heard whispers of this place, of the peace here." Maeve nodded slowly, her gaze gentle. "The forest rests deeply now. It gathers strength and quiet. Many find solace here when the world outside feels too loud." She gestured towards a smooth, moss-covered log nearby. "Will you sit for a while?" He gratefully accepted, sinking onto the surprisingly soft moss. Maeve sat opposite him, her movements fluid and unhurried. She didn't fill the silence with unnecessary chatter, allowing the comfortable quiet to stretch between them. It felt companionable, easy. After a while, she spoke again, her voice like the soft murmur of the slow stream. "The hush isn't an enchantment," she explained softly, as if sensing his unspoken questions. "It's the forest's own way, like hibernation, but deeper. A time for preserving perfect moments, for letting stillness mend what noise has frayed." She spoke of her connection to the Weald, how she had grown up in a cottage just beyond its edge and had always felt its pull. Over time, she had learned its rhythms, its needs during the hush, and had become its quiet guardian, ensuring its deep rest remained undisturbed. She moved through the grove, occasionally pausing to gently touch a drooping fern frond or brush a speck of dust from a sleeping squirrel's fur, her movements radiating care and belonging. From a woven satchel at her side, Maeve produced a small carved wooden cup and a thermos flask that seemed to hold the same warm glow as the forest light. "A little warmth?" she offered. Finnian nodded gratefully. She poured a steaming, pale golden liquid into the cup, the rising steam swirling with impossible slowness in the still air. The aroma was delicate and soothing chamomile, a hint of lemon balm, and something uniquely sunny and peaceful. He took the cup, the wood warm and smooth in his hands. He sipped the infusion slowly. It tasted exactly as it smelled, calming, warm, like drinking liquid sunlight and peace. The warmth spread through his chest, down into his limbs, releasing another layer of deeply held tension. He felt his eyelids grow heavy, not with tiredness, but with profound relaxation. Maeve watched him with a gentle, knowing smile, sipping from her own cup. They sat together in companionable silence for what felt like a long, blissful time, simply observing the slumbering grove. Finnian watched Maeve, saw how she seemed to breathe in time with the forest, her presence a calming anchor within the already profound stillness. He learned more from her quiet presence than words could convey about acceptance, about living in harmony with natural rhythms, about the deep, restorative power of simply being still. The amber hush, with Maeve as its gentle heart, was working its quiet magic, mending his frayed spirit from the inside out. Chapter 5, Echoes of Quietude. Time within the amber hush flowed like the slow, golden stream Finnian had observed, unhurried, deep, and restorative. He didn't know if he had spent hours or days resting by the warm pine, sipping Maeve's calming infusion, and simply absorbing the profound peace of the Somnolent Weald. The constant, gentle presence of the golden light and the deep, resonant quiet had seeped into his bones, soothing layers of accumulated weariness he hadn't even known he carried. The frantic energy of the outside world felt like a distant, half-forgotten dream. Yet a gentle stirring within him, as quiet and natural as the forest's eventual awakening would be, signaled that his time within the hush was drawing to a close. He felt rested, not just in body but in spirit. The frantic noise within his mind had quieted, replaced by a calm clarity. He knew he couldn't stay forever. The hush was the forest's sacred rest, and he was but a grateful visitor, but he also knew he would carry its essence with him. He found Maeve near the edge of the slumbering grove, gently tending to a patch of luminous moss, ensuring it wasn't being encroached upon by less radiant varieties. She looked up as he approached, her serene smile understanding. "You feel rested," she observed softly, not as a question but as a statement of fact. Finnian nodded, feeling a deep gratitude welling within him. "More rested than I have felt in years," he replied sincerely. "Thank you, Maeve, for your welcome and for this." He gestured encompassingly at the golden stillness. Maeve inclined her head. "The forest offers its peace freely to those who approach with a quiet heart. You carry its stillness within you now, Finnian." She reached into the small pouch at her belt and drew something out, holding it towards him on her open palm. It was a small, smooth seed, perfectly round, encased in a teardrop of solidified, translucent amber resin that glowed with the same warm light as the forest. "A memory," she said softly. "Hold it when the world feels too loud. It will help you recall the quiet." Finnian took the amber seed carefully. It felt surprisingly warm in his hand, pulsing with a faint, gentle energy. Looking closely, he could see the tiny seed suspended within the golden resin, a miniature echo of the forest's suspended animation. He closed his fingers around it, feeling a wave of the Weald's profound calm wash over him. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "I will treasure it." Maeve walked with him slowly towards the gilded threshold, the boundary between the hush and the waking world. As they neared the edge, the golden light seemed to thin slightly, the profound silence beginning to admit the faintest hints of external sound, the distant sigh of wind, the far-off possibility of birdsong. The transition felt gentle, gradual. At the very edge, where the amber light gave way to the normal greens and browns of the outer woods, Finnian turned back to Maeve one last time. She stood bathed in the golden glow, a figure of perfect serenity, embodying the spirit of the slumbering Weald. She gave him a final warm smile and a gentle nod, a silent blessing for his onward journey. He took a deep breath, holding the warmth of the amber seed in his hand, and stepped across the threshold. The change was noticeable. The air felt lighter, thinner. The sounds of the forest returned, though they seemed softer now, less intrusive than before. The golden light faded behind him, replaced by the dappled sunlight of a normal forest. Yet the feeling of peace remained, a deep, quiet pool within him. He felt centered, calm, his pace naturally slower, more mindful. He turned and looked back, but the entrance to the amber hush was no longer obvious, blending seamlessly into the surrounding woods. Only the memory, the feeling of profound stillness, and the warm seed in his hand remained as proof of the magic he had experienced. He smiled, a slow, contented smile, and turned to continue his journey. He didn't know where the path would lead next, but he walked with a lighter step and a quieter heart, carrying the echo of the amber hush with him, a sanctuary he could return to within himself whenever he needed its peace.